Indian-British relations are foreign relations between Republic of India and the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. India has a High Commission in London and 2 consulates-general in Birmingham and Edinburgh. The United Kingdom has a High Commission in New Delhi and 5 deputy High Commissions in Mumbai, Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad and Kolkata. Both countries are full members of the Commonwealth of Nations. Historically, the UK ruled India for 9 decades before Indians gained independence in 1947. The UK has an ethnic Indian population of over 1.6 million. Prime Minister David Cameron described Indian-British relations as the new special relationship in 2010. History. East India Company trade was established between Tudor England and Mughal India in 1600 when Elizabeth I granted the newly formed East India Company a royal charter. After the Mughal Empire's decline in 1707, India was a leading manufacturing country in the world in the early 18th century. It had 22.6% share of the world's GDP. By the time British left the country, its GDP was near 4%. During 18th century, East India Company began to gain greater influence in India. The Battle of Plassey in 1757 led to the conquest of Bengal, while by 1857, following various treaties and wars with Indian kingdoms, the East India Company controlled most of the Indian subcontinent. Following the Indian Mutiny of 1857, where Indian sepoys rebelled against the British officers, the East India Company was dissolved the following year. The assets of the British East India Company became so huge that the British government decided to step in. India served as the main base from the British Empire's expansion across Asia and would remain the Empire's most important colony until independence. Queen Victoria became Empress of India in 1858. From a small trading outpost, India became the jewel in the British Crown. British Raj in 1858, the British government assumed direct control of the territories and treaty arrangements of the former East India Company. In 1876, the area, which included modern India, Pakistan and Bangladesh, became the Indian Empire, with British monarch Queen Victoria proclaimed as Empress of India. The British Indian Army was established and assisted Britain in many wars, including the Anglo-Afghan Wars, the Anglo-Gurkha Wars, the Anglo-Burmese Wars, the First and Second Opium Wars, and both World Wars. End of the British Raj. The Indian independence movement gained traction following the Indian Rebellion of 1857. Opposition to British rule, both through violent revolutions and through non-violent resistance, eventually led to Indian independence in 1947. Partition of India created new entities out of the erstwhile British Raj, India and Pakistan. Dominion of India independence came in 1947 with the partition of India into the Union of India and the Dominion of Pakistan within the Commonwealth of Nations. King George VI, who as British monarch had been Emperor of India, abandoned this title in 1947 and served as India's ceremonial head of state as King of India. In 1950, India became a republic and the link with the British Crown was severed. The Dominion was part of the Sterling area. Republic of India. India decided to remain in the Commonwealth of Nations after becoming a republic. Both Britain and India have since pursued quite divergent diplomatic paths. In particular, India became a major force within the non-aligned movement, which initially sought to avoid taking sides during the Cold War. This contrasted with Britain's position as a founding member of NATO and key ally of the United States. Political and diplomatic relations between the two countries have generally been cordial but lacking in depth. Former Indian Prime Minister I.K. Gujral made a scathing assessment of Britain's relationship with India, saying that the UK was a third-rate power not worth cultivating. Economy. India is the third largest foreign investor in the UK, and the UK is also a significant investor in India. There are many bilateral trade agreements between the two nations designed to strengthen ties. For example, in 2005, the Joint Economic and Trade Committee was inaugurated in New Delhi aimed at boosting two-way bilateral investments. The growth of India's multinational companies contributed greatly to UK's business and economy. As of 2014, Indian companies in the UK generated over £19 billion. Also, they have employed more than 100,000 people in the UK. Tata Group alone employed over 55,000 people in the UK. This kind of phenomena, where non-Western countries impact the West, has been commented on by sociologist Anthony Giddens as reverse colonialism. The British government has chosen India as one of its most influential trade partners because it is one of the fastest-growing economies in the world. Quote, in 2013, Cameron formed the biggest trade delegation by accommodating more than 100 representatives that varied from multinational corporations, medium to small-sized corporations, and universities to India. Compared to the 2010 trade mission, the UK and India negotiated to double the trade volume by 2015. Following the trade delegation, total UK goods and services exports to India increased by 14% from January to September 2013. Education. Various Indian students have gone to the UK to attain higher levels of education. From 2004 to 2009, the number of Indian students studying in the UK doubled from 10,000 to over 20,000. By 2009, India was one of the top 10 countries sending students to study in the UK. Because the number of students grew, the British government and the Indian government agreed to cooperate. During the 2010 UK-India summit, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and India came into agreement to support education by implementing the India Education and Research Initiative. In this summit, Cameron stated that education is an area where India and the UK could pool some of the advantages for mutual benefit. Quote, he continued by stating that a higher quality of education would lead to providing opportunities for all, thus encouraging economic growth and overcoming poverty for India. However, after its implementation, the number of Indian students studying in the UK did not increase as expected by both governments. In 2010, Home Secretary Theresa May announced a stricter immigration law. This included tighter rules for international students. Students were forced to return to the homeland after earning their degree. Since the immigration law, there has been a rapid decrease of 25% in the number of first-year students from India during the year 2012-2013. Theresa May's action has been criticized by people such as historian Edward Acton. Acton stated that this action is butchering the Anglo-Indian friendship because it is treating university students as immigrants. The continuous drop in the number of international students, including Indians, has become controversial. Business leaders such as Sir James Dyson have commented that forcing international students to move back to the homeland can be detrimental to the British economy in the long term. In March 2015, Philip Hammond stated during an interview with DD News that Theresa May's policy has been cancelled. Starting from 2015, Indian students are able to stay in the UK for 6 years after their graduation. Politically, relations between India and the UK occur mostly through the multilateral organisations of which both are members, such as the Commonwealth of Nations, the World Trade Organization and the Asian Development Bank. 3 presidents of India have paid state visits to the United Kingdom: Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan in June 1963, Ramaswamy Venkataraman in October 1990, and Pratibha Patil in 2009. Queen Elizabeth II of the United Kingdom paid state visits to India in November 1963, April 1990, and in October 1997. Prime Minister Manmohan Singh visited the UK in 2006. Since becoming the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Cameron has been actively involved in enhancing the Indian-British relations on various dimensions, such as business, energy security, climate change, education, research, security and defence, and international relations. His effort can be seen in his political visits in India on February 18 to 20, 2013 and on November 14, 2013. Following his visit, other politicians such as former UK Foreign Secretary William Hague and Chancellor of the Exchequer George Osborne visited India to accomplish a trade mission in July 2014. During the visit, Osborne announced that a statue of Gandhi would be erected in London Parliament Square to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Gandhi's return to India from South Africa. Upon unveiling the statue on March 14, 2015, Cameron stated that our ties with India have remained close throughout history and continue to go from strength to strength, through mutual respect as equals, through cooperation, trade, and of course through the 1.5 million Indian diasporas living in Britain today who bring our two nations closer, to the benefit of both." Quote. He further commented that the statue will enrich the firm bond of friendship between the world's oldest democracy and its largest. India is the hope for a Western-style development based on democracy versus the Beijing consensus of state-guided growth. Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the UK from 12 to 16 November 2015. During the visit, Modi became the first Indian Prime Minister to address the British Parliament. The Times of India reported that agents from Mossad and MI5 were protecting Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who was heading to the 2015 G20 summit in Antalya, Turkey from the UK. The paper reported that the agents had been called in to provide additional cover to Modi's security detail, composed of India's Special Protection Group and secret agents from RAW and IB, in wake of the November 2015 Paris attacks. Perceptions. BBC World Service Country Rating Poll data for UK and AMP, India. According to a 2014 BBC World Service poll, 43% of Indians view the United Kingdom's influence positively, 30% neutral and 27% expressing a negative view, while 45% of the British view India's influence positively, 9% neutral and 46% expressing a negative view.